Good. Hello, very good morning to you guys. You're welcome back from your break. I just want to believe that you had a very successful, interesting assessment period. Yes, we are back again. And I'm sure you did well in your quizzes. Good. So today, we want to continue, and then we'll be looking at Unit 4, from Unit 1 through reading, note-taking, note-making, and then 3 conventions of usage. Today, we are here talking about developing writing skills. You know, when you have the rubrics of the language, you know to read, you know to write, you know to make your notes. Now we come to how we develop the skills of writing, because that is part of the university life. So in this unit, we would expect that by the end, you will be able to identify and use 6 basic English patterns. We would also expect that by the end of the unit, you'll be able to state the rules that govern subjects and verb agreements and use these rules in the right way. Then you'll be expected also to identify at the end of the unit and use modifiers in noun phrases. Then use correct English tense sequences in context, and then avoid misrelated constructions. Yes, so this is an outline of the units. The first session will pay attention to the basic sentence patterns, then subjects and verb concord. Every sentence has a structure and a pattern, so we'll be looking at them one after the other, and then pay attention to how subject and verb concord affect our writing. Then in session 2, we'll be paying attention to subject-verb concord. See, 3 times subject-verb concord. It means it is very important. In session 3, we continue with subject and verb concord. Then in 4, we look at modifiers, the words that make our writings descriptive, specific. And then look at the sequencing of tenses. When you have 2 or more verbs in a sentence, a structure, how do you arrange them? We'll be paying attention here to reported speech. Then in session 6, which we hope to complete today, we'll be looking at misrelated constructions or dangling modifiers. So guys, come with me and then let's begin. In this session, our objective is to identify the 6 verb patterns that we have studied, okay? Then distinguish between complements and then objects, and tell when the same verb form enters into different verb patterns, and use the verbs appropriately. So let's begin. I hope you are ready. We need to look at what a sentence is, because in writing, the sentence is the focus. So an English sentence is an organized string of words that conveys meaning. An organized string of words that conveys meaning. So if you have Kofi killed the snake, that is an English sentence. The boys arrived late. Perhaps the lecture began late. The visitor wanted the principal. I hope you can give some examples. Most of the constructions you make when you are asking for things, when you are directing people, are sentences. I hope you can give some examples. Good. These sentences that you saw are simple sentences, and they are organized string of words. The sentences are said to be simple because each of them has a single verb in it. Okay? Can you identify those verbs in the sentences we just called? Good. So the verbs are killed, arrived, and wanted. Have you realized that the sentence will still be simple if the verb phrase is compound? That is, if you have two or more verbs in one sentence. For instance, in this example 4, he has bought the book. He has bought the book. He is subject, has bought is a verb. So here we have two verbs. Okay? By the structure of this verb, it has an auxiliary, which is has, and the main verb, bought. Okay? Good. So here we say the verb is compound. Good. Then we also have another example. My friends will come tomorrow. Will come tomorrow. So we have two verbs, will and then come. It doesn't make the sentence complex. It is still simple because the idea is that we are communicating just one information. My friend will come. But because the action is situated not in the noun or present, but in the future, we need a word that will come and support come to communicate the idea that the action of coming is actually tomorrow. Good. So if you look at their friends will be waiting for them, and she might have paid the money. You have three verbs in here. It means that the verb structure is complex. Even though they are complex, it is still a simple sentence because the idea is one. So will be waiting, three verbs coming together to convey just one idea. And then might have paid. It's also three verbs coming together. You realize that might is talking about modality. Whether we are sure the person is coming or not, we use modal verbs. And then the have there is also talking or making reference to perfective or perfection, okay? So have is a perfect tense, and then the paid is a main verb. In example 6, will be waiting. Will is also marking modality. Here it means that the action is understood or is construed to be a promise, okay? Or it will happen. And then the be verb is there to help us to put the verb wait into the continuous form. A simple sentence is also called, is so called because it has only one clause or one idea in which may be found the subject, the verb, the object, the complement, and sometimes the adjunct. These subject, verb, object, complement, adjunct are referred to as clause elements or elements of the clause structure. So mostly you hear SVOC, SVOCA, SVO, SVOC, SVC. These are structures that we observe in our sentence constructions. An English clause, as you have studied, must contain a subject and a finite verb. Every English clause that is considered as a sentence must contain a subject and then a finite verb. And depending on the type of verb, there may be an object or complement following the verb. Okay? Sometimes an adjunct may be brought in to tell the time in which the action is taking place, the place where the action is taking place, the reason or the manner for which the action is taking place or expressed by the verb in the construction. Now, you also realize that there's some need for word order in the construction. Okay. In every string of words, for instance, if you have the sentence, "They killed Kofi Snake, late boys arrived, wanted the principal visitor there," you realize that the organization of every sentence is in some order. They follow some word order. The definition of the sentence was that it's an organized string of words. Tells you that not any such arrangement can be understood as what? A sentence. So these ones, these constructions, let me not call them sentences. The asterisk there shows or tells that they have issues. Okay? So these are not English sentences because this string of words are not organized conventionally to convey meaning, or they are not organized according to the rules of the English language. And that is the reason why when you say they killed Kofi Snake, somebody will be thinking, is this person correct? Is everything okay upstairs? Yeah, because the English language we know has rules, and every sentence must obey the rules of the language. We observe that, for instance, in B, the strings contain identical words with the one in A, okay? And yet, they are not acceptable English sentences because the strings are not properly ordered or organized. An essential feature of modern English structure is what we refer to as word order, or the sequencing of words in a sentence. For example, S is subject. The S must precede the V, which is the verb. Then it is followed by the O, which is the object, or complement, which is C. That is in an English statement. If you have a sentence that is saying something, making a fact, telling a situation, it's a statement, and the order must be subject, verb, object, or complement. It is word order that enables us to interpret the meanings of our sentences or constructions. In 1C, Kofi killed the snake, and in 1D, the snake killed Kofi. You would want to be tempted to think that because the words are the same, the meanings are also the same. We have how many words? 4 words in sentence 1D. We also have 4 words in sentence 1C. The same words, but are they the same meanings? No. These are acceptable English sentences with different meanings. Are you able to offer the different meanings of these 2 sentences? Are you able to tell? In 1C and then in 1D. Yeah, so you realize that in 1D, it is Kofi that did the action. In 1C, it is a snake that did the action. Okay? So if the snake dies in 1C, then Kofi will die in 1C. That is the difference of meaning. That ordering of the words contributes to our sentence structures. Very often also, it is the word order or the position of a word that determines its parts of speech. Okay? You would want to know what class or what part of speech a particular word belongs to. It is the order or the position of the word that determines such. Now let's look at some example. The word round can be classified into 5 different parts of speech, depending on the word's position or the function to which we put the word in the sentence. Round. What we are saying is that round can potentially be a noun, it can be a verb, it can be an adjective, it can be an adverb, it can be a preposition, the same round. Yeah. So look at sentence 8. The last round of the race was the most exciting. The last round. Here, realize that round is used as a noun. As to how round is a noun is another subject. Okay, it's another topic. And we may get there as you progress in your academic journey. In 9, John has just purchased a round table. Round again. Round here now is not what we are talking about. Now round is describing a table, and that is why it is called an adjective. You know that in the English language, adjectives are the landlords of modification. They are the ones that modify nouns. Okay? Now in sentence 10, the joggers rounded the field twice. Obviously, you know that in your knowledge of the English language, it is verbs that mostly take past tense. In fact, it is verbs that take past tense. Yes. So if we add ed to round, definitely it is going to be a verb here. So 10, round is a verb. Okay. In 11, the athlete went round the field. Why is this an adverb? It is an adverb because adverbs modify by showing how verbs do or verbs are done. Okay? So here, the verb is went. But how did the athlete, so past tense of go is went. How did the athlete go? He went round the field. So round here is an adverb. The thief fled round the corner. Now we are showing how the thief and the corner are related. We are saying that the thief fled round the corner. So round here is a preposition. Can you find some examples of words that behave in this way? There are so many of them. Can you explain why in 8 round is a noun? Can you explain why it is an adjective in 9, a verb in 10, a preposition or an adverb in 11, and a preposition in 12? Yeah. I mean, it is interesting. That is the English language we are studying. You have to know that the violation of word order may result, 1, in an unacceptable strain or sentence. Okay? As we found in some examples above. They can also cause ambiguity. Okay? Ambiguity is a situation where a sentence or a construction conveys more than a meaning. Every sentence must convey just one meaning. And there may be underlining ones, but it shouldn't be obviously clear that there are 2 or more meanings in one sentence. Now, if you look at a sentence 13a, Mary does not eat breakfast normally. Normally, we'll take this sentence as without a problem. But Mary does not eat breakfast normally. What does it mean? Think about it. You are the English professors. Think about it. What is the meaning of sentence 13a? This sentence is clearly ambiguous, if you didn't know. It is ambiguous, but can you tell, anytime you say a sentence is ambiguous, you should be able to identify the 2 or more meanings that are contained in the sentence. Can you write down the 2 meanings that are found or that can be found in the sentence? Mary eats breakfast abnormally. Now, it can mean that Mary eats breakfast rather abnormally. That is the manner in which Mary eats breakfast. Then it can also mean that Mary does not normally or regularly eat breakfast. So the adverb normally can modify the eating, or it can modify the breakfast event itself. Okay, so when you eat breakfast today at 6, tomorrow you take it at noon, and you call it brunch. That is not a normal way of eating breakfast. Okay, good. The explanation is that the adverb normally is wrongly positioned. In general, adverbs of manner, like normally, as we saw, fast, early, heartily, appear after the verbs that they modify, while frequency adverbs, for instance, often, always, generally precede the main verb. This is a rule. It's an important one. So you can note it, put it down, and then make sure that this rule is seen or demonstrated in your own writing. So sentence 13b has manner interpretation, and then 13c has frequency interpretation. These are the two meanings that potentially come out of the sentence. Now note that a simple sentence may take the form of a statement. You are a student. You are diligent. You are serious. Or it can take the form of a question. Are you a student? Are you diligent? Are you serious? Or how old are you? Then it can also take the form of a command. You are ordering. Okay? You are requesting. Okay? So shut the door, please. Shut the door, please. Keep quiet, please. Take your pens and papers, please. These are ways of commanding, ordering, requesting, kind of. Okay? Good. Now let's look at the 6 basic sentence patterns. A basic sentence pattern is determined by the type of verb that is chosen and how this verb is complemented. In spite of this, different writers give us different numbers. Hornby, for instance, in a Guide to Patterns and Usage in English and Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary of Current English, listed 25 basic patterns of the English sentence. But we may find in Leach and Svardvik, that is Communicative Grammar of English, page 308, that there are 6 patterns as adequate for our purpose. And the patterns are SV. So what we are saying is that English sentence can constitute or can be constructed using subject and then verb only. So whenever you say the child cried, that is an SV pattern of an English sentence. Birds fly, SV. Accountants manipulate account. Or accountants, let's say the child cried, yeah. So cried here, the verb cried, is understood to be an intransitive verb. It is a verb that does not need an object or complement. She danced gracefully. Yeah, you see SV and then SVA, SVA. We are saying all these sentences are SV. The A is like a flower. We are adding it to beautify the sentence. So she danced. How did she dance? Gracefully, SVA. And the bird flew away. We are showing where the flying of the bird was directed. Okay? Good. So SV, SVA, and then SVA in 14, 15, and then 16 examples. Now in example 17, the boy is handsome. We have a different structure or pattern altogether. Here, now the verb allows a complement. Okay, so we have an SVC, and the verb is a linking verb. In 18, he appeared tired yesterday. We have SVCA. SVCA. What it means is that in sentence 18, we have subject, which is he, appeared, which is our verb, V. Tired is complement, which is C. Yesterday is adjunct, which is A. He is the one we are talking about. Appeared is a link verb, and then tired is a description that the link verb links to the he, and yesterday is the time of day that we are talking about. In 19, John is a student. This is subject verb complement. The subject is John. The verb, which is a linking verb or a link verb, is, and then the complement is a noun phrase, a student. What we are saying is that John equals student, a student equals John. So a link verb links the subject to a description. They are lawyers, they are crazy, they are serious, they are interesting, they are holy, they are handsome. We are describing the day. Then you need a link verb to do this. Any other verb that you use that is not a link verb or sometimes a copular verb will not give you an SVC. Good. If you look at 20, he wrote a book. Now pay attention to the verb wrote. Wrote is an action verb, a transitive verb. It will not give you a C after the V. So the structure or the pattern is subject, verb, object. Verbs like wrote that have action in them, okay, will license an object, and that is the O. We call them transitive verbs. They must have an object. In fact, I must say that they mostly must have an object. Sometimes we can use them intransitively. Okay. In 21, he sold the land several years ago. He is the action doer, the agent, the person that is doing something. Sold is the action. The land is what is being affected by the verb. So what did he sell? He sold the land. When did he sell the land? Several years ago. So we have subject, verb, object, and adjunct. Subject is he. Sold is the verb. The land is the object. That is what he sold. And the time, that is the adjunct. Several years ago. Why is 3 words being understood as just one element? It is because several years ago is what is telling us the time. In 22, she cooks rice often. See, here the A is just one word. An S-V-O-A structure, but the A is just one word, often. Our subject, which is S, is she. Cooks is the verb. That is the container of the action. And what is being affected by the cooking is rice, which is our object. And often tells us the frequency, which is an adjunct. She cooks rice often. Okay? So, in 23, you have Mary gave mother a kiss. Mary gave mother a kiss. Here, you are seeing a verb that has licensed or allowed 2 objects to follow it. Not all verbs can do that. Okay? Not all verbs can allow for 2 objects to follow after them. Now, we call such verbs that allow 2 objects to follow after them ditransitive verbs. Die. Okay? Now, So you have SVOO in Mary gave mother a kiss. Mary is your subject. Gave is a verb, V. Mother is the first object. A kiss is the second object. Mostly, one of them is direct and one is indirect. How to identify the direct and the indirect is a simple semantic job. Okay, what did Mary give? Mary did not give mother. She gave a kiss. So the kiss is a direct object. Who did Mary give the kiss to? That is mother. Mother is the indirect object. Okay, so if you have another example like he bought me a flower on Valentine's Day. He bought me a flower. What did he buy? He didn't buy me. He bought a flower. So a flower is direct object. Me is indirect object. So it tells that the one that is the beneficiary of the action is the indirect object. But mostly it is the one that comes first. So if you look at Mary gave mother a kiss, mother, which is the indirect object, comes first and then followed by the direct object. In example 24, we sent father a Christmas card last year. So here what do we have? We have subject, verb, direct, indirect object, direct object, and then an adjunct. Okay, we, subject, sent, verb, father, O, and the O is indirect object here. A Christmas card is O, which is a direct object, and then last year is the adjunct. So you have realized by now that adjuncts often tell time, they tell the frequency, they tell the place, they tell the manner also. Right? We sent father a Christmas card last year. In 25, he posted John some money last week. He is a subject, that is S. Posted is a verb, that is V. John is our indirect object, the first O. Some money is our direct object. Why? Because what John posted, what he posted is not John, it is some money. So some money is the direct object. It is the one that is directly affected by the action in the verb posted. And then last week is also talking about the time when the posting was done. So in this example 25, we have subject, verb, object, object, adjunct. Okay? You should be able by now to be constructing sentences reflecting these patterns or structures. In 26, we named the baby Grace. This is how it should be read. We named the baby Grace, not we named the baby Grace. Okay, because the baby and Grace are not the same thing. Of course, they are related, but they are not the same thing. Okay? So in this example, we have a complex transitive verb. A complex transitive verb will allow, such a verb will allow an object, which in this case is the baby, and then a complement, which is Grace. That is why we call it complex. While verbs allow object one or two, here the verb we have named has allowed an object and then also a complement. So we call such verbs complex transitive verbs. We named the baby Grace. Now, whenever you have a situation like this, for you to be able to tell that there is object and there is a complement, you must understand that the object and the complement must have a co-referential relationship. The baby is naming Grace, or the baby is Grace, and Grace is the baby. SVOC. So where is our S? We. Where is our V? Named. Where is our O? The baby. Where is our complement? Grace. In 27, the judge found the accused guilty yesterday. So here, another SVOC with an adverbial or an adjunct. So the judge is our S, found is our V, the accused is our object, guilty is our complement, and yesterday is our adjunct. Now, the same referential, co-referential relationship is displayed here between the accused and then guilty. Okay, so the accused is a guilty one, and the guilty one is the accused. In another example, we elected Kufuor president 4 years ago. In fact, what it means is that this was written not 4 years ago. Kufuor was elected so many years ago, right? Good. But in this example, a typical example of what we are talking about, we have subject, verb, object, complement, adjunct. Okay? Our subject is we. The verb is elected. Object is Kufuor. The complement is president. 4 years ago is our adjunct. It's interesting that we see some patterning of the sentences that we write. Every such sentence must have a pattern. The ones you speak, the ones you write, all of them must have this pattern. Now, I told the boy to wait. I told the boy to wait. Here we have a subject, verb, object, and then a verb. Subject, verb, object, and then another verb. Yeah, the patterning is getting quite interesting as we move on, right? I told the boy to wait. Now, I here is a subject. Told is the first verb. The boy is the object. To wait is another verb in there. So we can also have subject, verb, object, verb as part of the patterns in the English language. We can go on to have subject, verb, object, verb, adjunct. Getting the more crazier. He ordered me to kneel on the grass. He ordered me to kneel on the grass. He, subject, which is S, ordered, V, me is the O, to kneel, that is another V, and then on the grass is an adjunct. Do you want her to go? Do you want her to go? Subject, verb, object, verb. Interesting. We use these sentences all the time, but maybe we have not paid attention to the patterns or the structures, the clausal elements that we use in building these sentences. So it is good that you are here getting to know the architecture of your own sentences. Do you want her to go? Maybe you have said it before, but did you know that you are actually using a pattern, subject, verb, object, verb? Now you are beginning to pay attention to your own sentences. You need to remember that adjuncts are optional elements. They are optional in the sense that if you want to tell the time in which an action took place, you add an adjunct. If you want to tell the manner in which something was done, you use an adjunct. Okay? But they have the ability to appear sentence initial, which means they can come before the sentence or can be the first word in the sentence. In all the examples we saw, the adverb was sentence final. They appeared the last bit or the last part of the sentence. In 32, yesterday he bought a book. Sentence initial. It could be he bought a book yesterday. Sentence final. Sometimes they are even put in sentence medial, in the middle of the sentence. But in 33, you see another ASV. Generally, hard work pays. It could also be SVA. Hard work pays generally. That is what we are saying. Okay? Good. So this is an example or an instance of sentence media. She regularly comes late. She regularly comes late. She is subject, regularly is adjunct, comes is verb, late is adjunct. When does she come? Late. That is an adjunct. It is telling time. Regularly is also adjunct. It is telling frequency. She regularly comes late. She does not always dance. She does not always dance. She is subject. Does not dance is our verb. But you realize that in the middle of this sentence is placed an adjunct, which is always. It could have been she does not dance always. But here we want the adverb or adjunct to be in the sentence media or in the middle of the sentence. We saw a lot of the examples of sentence final. Here we have some more. I shall visit here, or I shall visit there. They won the prize last year. Okay, we have SVA in 36 and SVOA in 37. Now you need to test yourself. Write down some 2 sentences to illustrate the 6 sentence patterns, and finally note that the same verb form may enter into different sentence patterns as the example below. In 38a, Mary gave her heart. Mary gave her heart. SVO. So you can say Mary gave it. Her heart is the object. Mary gave John her heart. Mary gave John her heart. SVOO. The baby cried. SV. They cried the news all over town. SVOA. Yeah, sentence pattern is getting interesting. The ship appeared on the horizon. SVA. He appeared very sad. SVC. Note that very sad is a C. Appeared is V. He is a subject. The driver calls every morning. The driver is a subject. S. Calls is a verb. V. Every morning is our adjunct. A. They called the reservists. Okay? SVO. We call him Dick. SVOC. I'm beginning to realize that you have followed me and have been able to understand the patterning, the structuring, the clausal elements that we use in building sentences. If that is the case, write down 6 sentences to illustrate each verb pattern. SV, SVO, SVC, SVA, SVOA, SVOC. I hope you'll be able to do that. Then identify the verb in each sentence below and state its pattern. He started down the hill 3 days earlier. I want to believe that you can do the self-assessments. So that brings us to our first session. Sentence and sentence patterns. Now, I just want you to go on to do this, but we need to go to the section C, second section. Okay, so maybe you do that exercise later and then you show them to your instructors for marking. So here in session 2, we are looking at subject and verb concord. As we learn to construct or write sentences out, there is something mechanical about a sentence that we need to know. And that is how subjects agree with verbs. We call it subject-verb concord. In this session, we expect that by the end, at the end, you'll be able to identify the subject of a sentence in terms of number and person. You'll be able to choose the appropriate number of the verb and then the person to match it, and then use this concept to edit your own writings and those of others. So subject and verb concord. How is this explained? The term concord or agreements in grammar is used to describe the relationship that exists between the inflectional forms of different elements within a sentence. For example, pronouns agree with their head nouns or antecedent in terms of number, that is the inflection. Gender, that is also person. Gender and then person. So when we talk about number and then person, we are talking about how many we are referring to. When you say they, we are referring to more than one. When you say he, we are referring to one. That is the number. Okay? Then the gender, whether male or female, is also referred to in sentences. Then person, that is whether the person is first person, the one speaking, second person, the one being spoken to, or third person, the one who is not listening or who is being spoken about. That is what we refer to as number, gender, and then person. So the man came. In that example, the man came. You have he came. Okay? He refers to the man. And because the man is just one person, the pronoun he is also one. We call the noun phrase in the man came a singular noun phrase. The pronoun is also a singular pronoun. Okay? The woman came. She came. The woman is singular. She is also singular. The man and the woman came. We are now conjoining these two singular nouns or noun phrases, and so we have a plural noun phrase, and we replace the man and the woman with they. Okay? Good. Now that is the number. Now the person, okay? The speaker is the first person, singular, I. We can also have the speaker being first person, plural. Sometimes we say, sometimes I say. We say don't go there. I say don't go there. We are all speakers, singular, I, plural, we. Then the listener can also be singular and plural, that is you. And the you can be just you. You, as in you. Yeah, you. It can also be you, as in you. Yeah, you. All of you. It is interesting. In those days, Old English, we had words that were able to distinguish you, one person, and you, more than one person. But as English grew, it lost all of that. And today, when we say you, we have to use some spiritual mechanism to tell whether you are referring to two or just one person. Okay, good. So sometimes we can also have the gender, masculine gender and then feminine gender. So when you say he, the gender is masculine. She, gender is feminine. But you can have one that is neutral, what technically we refer to as neuter, okay, which is it. They are neither male nor female. They are neither masculine nor feminine. Okay, good. You would have to go back to Unit 3, Session 5 to refresh your memory on some of these things we are talking about. So here we are paying attention to verbs and how they agree with their subjects. Generally, verbs agree or they must agree with their subjects in terms of number, how many subjects we are talking about, and the person, whether first, second, or third. The grammatical rule about subject and verb concord can be stated simply as, this is the basic rule. A singular subject takes a singular verb, and a plural subject takes a plural verb. This is basic, everybody should know. Put in another way, we can say that a singular verb agrees with a singular subject, and a plural verb agrees with a plural subject. Everybody should know this, because it is awkward when you give awkward sentences in which subject singular don't agree with their verbs. For example, the man dances. Anybody that says the man dances knows their grammar, because the man is singular, dances is also singular. The verb is dances, the subject is the man. Dances is singular, the man is also singular, or the subject is also singular. So singular subjects agree with singular verbs. The men dance. Yeah. Now we have two or more man. So the subject has become plural, and the verb must change to plural too. The men dance. It's interesting. It will get more interesting as we move on. Yeah. Simple and clear as these rules are, there are areas of the sentence construction, in which we encounter a lot of trouble with agreements. We'll use the rest of the session to examine 5 of such trouble areas. So we are here talking about singular subject joined by coordinator and. Okay? We talk about the man, we will talk about the woman, we will talk about rice, we will talk about beans, we will talk about bread, we will talk about butter. It means 2 singular nouns or subjects are being joined. When 2 or more singular subjects are joined together by and, the plural form of the verb is used. What we are saying is that when you see 2 singular subjects connected or joined by and, it is a plural subject, and so the plural verb must be used. Now pay attention. She and her mother are away on holiday. She and her mother is a plural subject. Are is a plural verb. A fool and his money are soon parted. This is a proverb. A fool and his money are soon parted. A fool and his money is a plural subject. Are is also a plural verb. He and I are old schoolmates. He is singular, I is singular. The 2 together is now plural. So the plural verb are is also used. Both the farmer and the fisherman are poor. Are you sure? I'm not sure. I live closer to fishermen. I've stayed with farmers before. They are not poor. Both the farmer and the fisherman, here are is plural. Both the farmer and the fisherman is also plural. So here in these sentences, subjects agree with verbs. Now you realize that 3 modifications of this general rule would have to be remembered, would have to be noted. Okay? We have said that when 2 singular subjects joined by and is used, the plural verb is used. But remember, 1, that when each of the singular subjects is considered individually, the singular form of the verb is required. Underline this. If you have your module with you, underline this. It's a very important exception. When each of the singular subjects is considered individually, the singular form of the verb is required or is used. This is normally the case if the singular subject is modified by determinants each and every. For example, every junior worker and senior officer contributes to the growth of the company. Every. We are individuating the two subjects, junior worker and senior officer. Every. So we are saying the verb must be singular because we are referring to the individuals, which is understood to be singular verbs. The verb underlined contributes is singular. Its plural is without s. Note that. In example 11, each man and woman submits a good report. Each man and woman submits a good report. Here we are talking about the individuals. Each. Each means singular. Okay? Good. Can you write down one sentence to illustrate this modification of the rule? Every one of us has seen it before. That is my example. Good. So can you write yours? But let's move on to the next modification. We said there are 3 modifications. The next one, note this one also. When the two singular subjects refer to one and the same person or thing, the singular verb is chosen. Understand that here we can have 2 singular subjects, but they may be talking about one and the same person. For example, Kofi and staff secretary. Kofi and staff secretary. Okay? Here we are saying Kofi, who is our staff secretary, is leading the delegation. So Kofi is the staff secretary, and the staff secretary is Kofi. There's an instance where we say the 2 singular subjects refer to one and the same thing. When that happens, a singular verb is chosen, or a singular verb must agree with this kind of subject. In another example, red and red. It is red and red. We usually call it red, right? Red and red is good meal. That is fried plantain and bean stew is considered one. Red and red is a good meal. It is just one thing, red and red, or red, red. Okay? Sometimes you have bread and butter. It's not good for you at this age. Good. Rice and beans is my favorite. Yes. So rice and beans is one thing. It's a meal. That is why we use the verb is, which is singular. Then the third modification happens when we talk about mathematical computations. When we talk about mathematical computations, they admit both the singular and then the plural. Very important to note. When we talk about mathematical computations in which one singular subject is linked to another singular subject, the situation can allow for a singular verb or a plural verb. So when you have an example like 1 and 1 is 2. You can also say 1 and 1 are 2. What it means is that 1 plus 1 is 2. 1 plus 1 are 2. So here we have 3 modifications to the rule we learned earlier. Okay, good. So 4 times 5 is 20. 4 times 5 are 20. 4 squared is 16. 4 squared are 16. Realize that all of these are mathematics. Good. The second general rule: singular subjects connected by or, nor, and but. That is what we are going to talk about now. When you have singular subjects that are connected by or, nor, and but, there is a rule for it. Pay attention. Now, when two or more singular subjects are joined by but or nor, a singular verb is selected. Fatty or Evelyn is likely to go. We are not choosing both. We are choosing one. Fatty or Evelyn is likely to go. Not only the husband, but also the wife needs advice. Not only the husband, but also the wife needs advice. Why do we choose needs? We choose needs because the rule is saying that when two or more singular subjects are joined together by but or nor, the singular verb is chosen or selected. Here, not only the husband, but also the wife. That is the rule. So the verb that comes after the wife must be singular. In 19, neither the student nor the teacher is blameless. Both are to blame. Why do we choose is when we have student and teacher in one sentence? It is so because the rule says when two or more singular subjects, in this case the students and the teacher, are connected by nor, the singular verb is selected. That is why we have selected is here. It is a rule. You would have to sit down and then reread this rule and see how you have been applying these rules or you have been breaching these rules, so that you have a very studious session on these rules we are talking about. In example 20, not my uncle but my father has won a prize. Not my uncle but my father has won a prize. Has is singular. Okay? When you have two verbs like this, the first verb marks the concord. Has. It could have been both my uncle and my father have. This one is referring to plural subject. But here, but my father has won a prize. Neither Hearts nor Kotoko is likely to lose. That means they will draw. Neither nor is. That is the rule. Either the pastor or the catechist is invited. It means we cannot invite both. We are inviting one, and one is singular. That is why we have chosen the singular verb is invited. And realize also that is invited is a verb, but the first verb, which is the auxiliary, is what we mark the concord on. Okay, good. Now write down two sentences to illustrate this rule as we move on. There is another rule in this concord thing that we refer to as the rule of proximity. Proximity is closeness, distance. Okay? This rule is very important. When one of the two subjects join together by or, but, or nor is singular, but the other is plural, the verb agrees in number and person with the nearer one. Now listen again. When one of the two subjects that are joined, as we saw earlier, like my uncle and my father, they are joined by or, but, or nor. One is singular and then the other is plural. That's a complex situation. We are saying that the verb you choose will depend on the noun or the subject that is closer to the verb. Yeah. You remember those days in school, primary school, if you sat close to a lady, we used to share desk. If you sat close to a lady, that lady is automatically your girlfriend. That is how we saw it. Yeah. So proximity, the one you sit closest to is the one you agree with. And that is the rule we are talking about here. It shouldn't confuse you. When you have one of the subjects joined together by or, but, or no, being singular and the other being plural, don't be worried. look for the one that is sitting closest to the verb. One will be singular, one will be plural. If the singular one is sitting closest to the verb, let the verb be singular. If the plural one sits closest to the verb, let the verb be plural. For example, either the girl or her parents. Here we have two subjects, the girl and then her parents. And her parent is sitting closest to the verb. And that is why the verb is are. Either the girl or her parents are to blame. In the other example, either the parents or the girl is to blame. This is so straightforward, right? Beautiful. Let's move on. You understand that in 23b, is has been chosen because the girl is sitting closest to the verb. And the girl is singular. So the verb must also be singular. Kojo or I am to go. Yeah, Kojo or I am to go. Here, unfortunately, interestingly, you don't have two different numbers. Kojo is singular as I is also singular. You, but not Kate, is likely to be appointed. If in applying this rule, you find your construction awkward or weird, you need to recast your idea in a form that is correct, clear, and then natural. For instance, instead of writing neither Alote nor you are to pay for the lost book, you can write she or am the more popular candidate. She or I am the more popular candidate. Now, you can also have you or Ama is the leading candidate. You or Ama is the leading candidate. If you realize that this is weird, you can write you or Ama is the leading candidate. Two subjects, one is singular, one is plural. The verb agrees with the one that sits closest to it. Another rule, singular subjects followed by pseudo conjunctions. Pseudo conjunction is anything that behaves like a conjunction, but it is not a conjunction. So expressions such as well as, in addition to, including, no less than, with, together with, etc. are not true conjunctions. They do not actually bring two singular subjects together. And so they cannot connect two singular subjects to make them plural. Let us then state our fifth subject and verb concord rule. That will be a singular subject that is followed immediately by such expressions such as well as, in addition to, including, no less than, with, together with, along with, or any similar such construction requires a singular verb. This is a rule. You need to write this, rewrite it, and use it because it's a rule, it's a convention. Example 29a. The teacher as well as the head teacher requires patience or needs patience. Here you may think that we are talking about two people. Of course, two people have been mentioned, but we have not joined them to make them plural. We are talking about the teacher. And we are also talking about the head teacher. We are saying that either of them needs some patience or requires patience. The rule is simple. In 30A, the minister together with his secretaries is expected back today. We are talking about the minister. Together with his secretaries is just a pseudo construction. Okay? You have to remember pseudo constructions. They behave as though they are conjoining the two subjects. They are not. They are fake conjunctions. That's why we call them pseudo conjunctions. The bricklayer, no less than the plumber, is to blame for the shoddy work done. We are talking about the bricklayer. No less than is a pseudo conjunction. It is not joining the plumber to the bricklayer. Okay? Good. 32a. The house, in addition to the furniture, was destroyed by fire. Yeah, the house was destroyed by furniture. In addition to, it's a pseudo construction. Okay, the same thing happens in 33A. The chairman, along with the secretary, has been arrested. Obviously, 2 people have been arrested, but we are talking about the chairman. Okay. Do you find these constructions illogical, unreasonable, weird? Because more than one person or thing is included in the subject or the noun phrase. Maybe that is how you are thinking right now, you are feeling right now. And you are not alone. Most people do. Before we understood these conventions and rules, we also did. Yeah. So sometimes we try to avoid such constructions altogether. Yeah. And so you have both the teacher and the head teacher require patience. Yeah. The minister and his secretaries are expected to be back today. Both the bricklayer and the plumber are to blame for the shoddy work. The house and the furniture are destroyed by fire. The chairman and the secretary have been arrested. Okay. If you don't want the earlier groups of constructions, you choose these ones. But in exam, when we give you the minister together with his secretary, we are testing you. So you need to choose the singular verb. Good. You need to know that the A sentences are not wrong. Both are correct. Both A and B sentences are correct. And it is just a matter of style. Can you write 4 sentences to illustrate the use of this rule? Try. As you try, we look at some self-assessment which you will do later and show to your instructors for correction. But that means that we are at the end of session 2 already. Can we go to session 3? Yes, we can. We can. So shelve these exercises and try them later when we are done, okay? So session 3, subject and... So in talking about subject concord, there is modification. So here, plural modification of singular subject. Examine the following sentences carefully and draw a general rule of usage for them. The behavior of these students is unfriendly. The leader of the students is expected to address the staff. One of the schools in the district is to be made a model institution. Are you able to tell or, bring out any rule? Are you able to formulate a rule for these 3 sentences? Yeah, you should. You would observe that the underlying parts in the sentences, they are modifiers of the nouns which they are true subject of. Okay, all the 3 heads, behavior, leader, and one, are all singular. They are singular nouns, followed by plural modifiers. Okay, are you able to construct your rule now? Are you able to formulate your rule now? Yeah. Have you done that? We said that behavior was modified of the students, leader of the students, one of blah blah blah. We are saying that all these have been modified, but we chose a verb for them. Can you formulate a rule for this? Okay, now compare your rule with this one. A singular subject that is followed by a plural modifier takes a singular verb. Did you think of something like this? Or did you write, is what you have written down something like this? Yeah, they are singular subjects, behavior, leader, and one. But they were modified by constructions that are plural in nature. When that happens, you choose a singular verb. Okay? But you need to note, however, that a number of and the number of behave differently. A number of takes a plural verb. A number of students have been promoted. A number of students have been promoted. A number of books have been stolen from this library, or a number of books are missing from this library. So it is conventional, it doesn't change. This is an English rule. When you use the construction a number of, or the expression a number of, you will need a plural verb. A number of us have not registered yet. A number of inmates have been released. A number of books are missing from my shelf. However, when you have the number of, the rule changes. The number of goes with singular verbs. Please don't forget, you cannot have your own rule between these two. You cannot. When you use a number of, it goes with plural verb. But when you use the number of, it must go with a singular verb. So the number of stolen mobile phones is 72. The number of stolen mobile phones is 72. The number of new students admitted has risen considerably. The number of new students admitted has risen considerably. Remember that the expression a number of takes plural verbs. The number of takes singular verbs. Now, state the reverse of this rule. Compare your statement with ours. A plural subject followed by a singular modifier requires a plural verb. 4 panes in the window have been broken. Although window is closer to the verb, it does not dictate the number of the verb. We are talking about 4 panes being modified by a singular construction in the window. Okay. The twin daughters of my mother are identical. My mother is singular, but we are talking about the twin daughters. Okay. So can you write down one more example to reflect this rule? Remember that what we are talking about in this unit and these sessions are conventions. They are rules. So you need to also take your time and then review the rules so that you apply them. You must understand them. These are musts. Okay? Good. Now let's look at how indefinite pronouns also behave in subject-verb concord. Write down as many indefinite pronouns as you can recall. Do you know what an indefinite pronoun is? Do you really know that? Anybody is an indefinite pronoun. Anyone, each, either, everybody, neither, nobody, no one, somebody. These are indefinite pronouns because when we mention anybody, we are not definite. We are not definitely referring to somebody in particular. Anybody can go to court. I'm saying anybody can go to court. Yeah. So indefinite pronouns require singular verbs. Remember that. Indefinite pronouns require singular verbs. 10. Example 10. Anybody is allowed to apply. Yeah. Either of the answers is acceptable. It can be any of them. Each of the books costs a fortune. Each of the books costs a fortune. Nobody is permitted to skip classes these days. If you skip a class, you miss a lot. Now write down sample sentences with the rest of the indefinite pronouns. And know that the indefinite pronouns any and none can take plural verbs in casual usages. Are any of the teachers present? Any has gone for a plural verb. None of the candidates are allowed to enter the exam hall. None has taken on a plural verb. In formal styles, however, the singular verb is required. Is any of the teachers present? None of the candidates is allowed to enter the exam hall. Remember that these are conventions. The rules stated are rules to be obeyed. Now, how do relative clauses also behave in terms of concord? Can you give us some examples of a relative clause? Okay. Yeah. So here, the man who is standing behind is Janet's father. The man who is standing behind is Janet's father. The people that has been caned is crying or still crying. The books which are on the table are new. The underlined structures who is standing behind and then that has been caned and which are on the table are called relative clauses. How do these behave in concord? The relative pronouns in the sentences 16, who, that, which are what must dictate the number or the type of verb to choose. But can you state the rule regarding these pronouns? Who, that, which? Can you state it? Because you cannot tell whether which is singular or plural. That singular or plural. Who singular or plural. Now, when the subject of your sentence is a relative pronoun, the verb must agree with the antecedent of the pronoun, of the relative pronoun. Okay? When the subject is a relative pronoun, the verb agrees with the antecedent of the relative pronoun. So we are going back to see what the antecedents of these relative pronouns are. In 16, the relative pronoun is who, but we don't know the number of who. But the antecedent is the man. So we can tell that the number is singular. And that is why we choose the verb is. In 17, the relative pronoun is that. What is the antecedent? It is the people. The people is singular. That is why we chose the singular verb is. In 18, the antecedent or the relative pronoun is which. Its antecedent is the books. That is why books is plural. That is why we chose the verb are. So the rule says when the subject is a relative pronoun, the verb agrees with the antecedent of that relative pronoun. And that is as simple as that. The man is singular, the people is singular, the books is plural. Good. So we have explained this already. Now if you look at 19, Ajua is one of the women who are leaders. Ajua is one of the women who are leaders. One of the boys who play in the team is given an award. 21. This is one of those suggestions which are best ignored. Okay? Now we can tell that the antecedent of the relative pronoun who is women or the women. That is why we chose are. The antecedent of the relative pronoun who is boys or the boys. That's why we chose play, which is a plural verb. And the antecedent of the relative pronoun which is those suggestions, which is plural. That's why we chose the verb are, which is a plural verb. Good. So now we also look at collective nouns. How do collective nouns also behave in the subject verb concord discussion? Can you give some examples of collective nouns? They include army, flock, crowd, staff, audience, team, family, committee, clergy, jury, government, etc. Class can also be an example of a collective noun. Okay? The general rule is that a collective noun takes a singular verb when the class is considered as a unit, and a plural verb when members of that collection are considered as individuals. I hope you understand this. It can be family, but we can refer to the family as one. So the family is rich. Okay? We can also say the family are rich. Here we are talking about the individuals of the family. The family is on holiday. All of them together, the family are on holiday. Maybe mother and father, they are on holiday at different places. That is what we are talking about here. So let's look at some examples. The jury is expected to come out with its verdict. Here the jury is considered as a unit, one. That is why we are using the verb is. Our family is united on the issue. That is all of us, mother, father, sons, and daughters, with uncles and aunties. A nuclear family is considered as one. The clergy is nowadays well paid. All asofo, all pastors is what we are talking about here. We are saying nowadays they are well paid. Are we very sure? Now in this class, the class is considered as individuals. So it means that they are going to be plural. And this is called notional concord. Notional because the concord is understood on our mind. We are referring to the people as individuals. The jury were unable to agree on a verdict. Here we are talking about the jury with reference to the individual members that make up this collection or collective noun. Our family have been arguing among themselves. It means mother, father, sons, daughters, in-laws included, are arguing. So here our family is plural. The clergy are divided on the issue of the Trinity. Yeah. So here we are referring to the individuals that come together to refer to the collective noun clergy. They are divided. Good. To make the B part more acceptable to some writers, we may introduce the term members and make the collective nouns modifiers. So usually we say the members of the jury were unable to agree on the verdict. That is more clearer. Okay? The members of our family have been arguing among themselves. The members of the clergy are divided on the issue of the Trinity. You need to know that A and B sentences are all acceptable alternatives. You may choose one. Okay. Now choose any two other collective nouns to use to convey both singular and then plural meanings. I hope you are able to do that. Yeah. Now let's look at plural numbers that are perceived as a unit. Okay. Generally, plural numbers are followed by a singular verb when they are used to convey the idea of a unit or a sum. So for example, $2,000. This is a measurement of currency. $2,000 is a lot of money. 2,000. When you are counting, it is more than one. It is from 1 to 2,000, so it is plenty. Why is it not plural? It is not plural because it is currency. It is considered as a unit. Okay, 2,000 is a lot of money. Is 5 years too long to wait? 5 years. That is more than a year. So why is it not plural? Why didn't we use are? We did not use are because 5 years is a measurement of time. Okay. Is 5 years too long to wait? 5 years is too long to wait. 40 hours is a regular work week. 40 hours is a measurement of a work week. So plural numbers can be perceived as a unit. When they so perceived as units, we consider them singular. Okay? 100 yards is less than 100 meters. 100 yards is a measurement. 3 million cedis is a measurement of unit or currency, is what she has invested. 10 tons of cocoa has been brought into the port. Okay. Can you write down 2 examples using these examples we have already given? Yes, you can. Try it. But there are times also when we have singular nouns behaving or showing up in plural forms. It gets quite tricky. They are singular nouns, but we write them with S and other things. I mean, behaving as though they are plural. One of these is news. When we say news, how many is it? No news is good news. So news is a singular noun that is written in plural form. Then we also have names of some diseases. Okay, they are written in plural forms, but they are singular. So you have to pay attention to them when you are using them in sentences. And sometimes we can also test you. Measles are or measles is. Which one do you choose? Measles is the name of a disease. It is singular, but it is written with a plural form or in a plural form. Mumps, rickets. Okay, these are singular nouns written in plural forms. Measles is quite infectious. Not measles are quite infectious. Then we can also have names of subjects of study. They end usually in ICS. Mathematics, classics, dynamics, statistics, ethics, economics, linguistics, physics, and all the XXX that you have. These are singular subjects of study, but they end with plural forms, or they are written in plural form. Phonetics, semantics, pragmatics, these are singular nouns. So semantics is my favorite university course. Semantics is, not are. We have John is reading economics, which is a social science subject in the university. Which is, it means economics is singular, although it is written in plural form. But note the difference between statistics and statistics. Statistics may take a singular or plural verb depending upon the meaning. For example, statistics as a subject of study is an interesting subject. And usually you have to know that if it is a subject of study, it will be written with a capital letter. Okay. Then you have statistics on accidents are frightening. This one is also in plural. It is written in capital letter because it begins the sentence. Sometimes it will be in the middle or at the end of the sentence. But understand that in 37, statistics is a subject, and so it takes a singular verb. In 38, statistics means figures, so it will take a plural verb. Okay, good. Now you also have names of games. Billiards. I don't know whether you play billiards. Okay. Darts. Okay. Dominoes. 9 pins, etc. These are games, names of games. They are singular, but they are written in plural forms. Dominoes is Mary's favorite game. I don't know whether it is yours too. Mine is darts, although I'm not very good at targeting my points. Now, you have also proper nouns like Algiers, Athens, Flanders, Netherlands, Wales. Okay, they are singular entities, but they are written in plural forms. Netherlands is in Europe. Now, what conclusion can you draw from the examples above? You can say, for instance, that singular nouns ending in s take singular verbs. Singular nouns ending in s take singular verbs. Can you write down some 5 sentences, one for each of the areas we have mentioned above? Singular nouns that refer to singular entities but are written in plural forms take singular verbs. You can also have nouns in the plural only. Yeah, they may not necessarily end with s, but they are plural. For instance, cattle and then people. Cattle and then people. Police. So the police are on the road to check vehicle papers. Okay? People are not people. Say people are not people, yeah? Tools, instruments, and articles of dress in 2 equal parts joined together. Example, jeans, pants, shorts, trousers, and tights are also used as plurals. Okay? So jeans are fashionable among ladies these days. Jeans. Trousers are also fashionable among ladies these days. Okay. Binoculars, glasses, spectacles, pliers, scales, tongs, etc. These are tools. They are also plurals. These spectacles are expensive. Then we have archives, arms, means, oaths, fans, outskirts, premises, stairs, and tanks. Okay, these are plural. Many thanks are given for the drink. Arms are stolen into the prison. Can you summarize the rule here? The rule is that plural nouns in s or without s take plural verbs. Where are your trousers? Trousers is the plural noun. The tongues are all rusty. Tongues is the plural noun, and that is why it is choosing are. The archives are located on the 2nd floor. Archives is the plural noun. It is choosing the plural verb are. Can you write down 4 sentences with some of these plural nouns? And can you do these self-assessment questions? A self-assessment question means that we are at the end of the unit or the session already. And that is session 3. I mean, you can pay attention to these self-assessment questions when we are done. Session 4. In session 4, our attention is on modifiers. Okay? How modifiers behave in concord subject-verb agreement. By the end of this session, you should be able to state what modifiers are, state the structure of modification in noun, adjective, and adverb phrases, distinguish between determiners and pre-modifiers in noun and noun phrases, state the sequence of epithets in pre-modification, and then select and use modifiers in noun phrases. So we will pause here so that you refresh for some 3 minutes or so, and then we'll come back and continue. Good, so we are back. I realized that it is 9 already. Yeah, it is 9 already. But I would want you to give me some 10 minutes to finish this session, and then we'll continue when we meet again next week. Okay? Good. So straight, let's finish with session 4. Now, what do you think are the modifiers in these examples? A bird flew past. A bird flew past. Okay? The load is heavy. The lady walks slowly. Now look at the other sentences. A bird flew past. A red bird flew past. The load is heavy. That load is very heavy. The lady walks slowly. That lady walks extremely slowly. Are you able to tell the modifiers in these examples? Try. The modifiers have been underlined. A red bird, very heavy, extremely slowly. Now, which sentences in the pairs do you think are more specific? Obviously, the B sentences convey more definite and more restricted ideas than the A ones. A bird flew past. It can be any bird, but when we say a red bird flew past, it means we are being more specific. Okay. Now, the underlined words that we saw in B sentences restrict the head words to give us the kind of phrases that we get. It restricts them in the references that it makes. Okay. Now, red is an adjective and it modifies red. A noun to yield a red bird. Once you add red to bird, you have a noun phrase, and the red modifies the bird, which becomes now a noun phrase. In a similar way, if you add very to heavy, you are trying to modify the heaviness by amplifying it or downtoning it. In this case, the heaviness has been amplified with the word very. It could have been slightly heavy, a bit heavy, that is downtoning the heaviness. But here, it has been intensified, very heavy. So here, we have an adjective to give us the adjective phrase, very heavy. On the other hand, extremely, which is an intensifying adverb, has been added to or has been used to modify the verb slowly, okay, to tell that the slowness was extreme. Okay, now you need to know that extremely slowly itself modifies the verb walks in the sentence. Extremely slowly means highly slowly. Okay, the words read very extremely and indeed the phrase extremely slowly are all modifiers. Okay, modifiers are items or structures that qualify the sense of a word or structure. Can you write down 3 examples of noun, adjective, and adverb phrases, each with a modifier? Can you do that? Here are some examples. Shoddy work, faded jeans, a melodious voice, quite handsome, very pretty, unbelievably ugly, very fast, excruciatingly, painfully, quite loudly. These are examples in which modifiers are modifying nouns, adjectives, and then adverbs. Some modifiers can be called pre-modifiers, some post-modifiers. Modifiers may precede their head words or the words they are modifying, wherein they are called pre-modifiers. When they precede the words they are modifying, we call them pre-modifiers. When they come after the heads or the words they are modifying, we call them post-modifiers. The examples below consist of both pre-modifiers and post-modifiers. These are for noun phrases. The dirty room upstairs, the magnificent mansion opposite. The dirty room upstairs, the magnificent mansion opposite. In adjective phrases, we have very clever enough, too heavy to carry. In adverb phrases, we have quite slowly enough, too noisily to tolerate. Okay, now we are going to pay attention to the modifiers that were used in the noun phrase. So this is the structure of the noun phrase. From the examples in the paragraph above, we can diagram the noun phrases as the head word, for instance, is mansion. The head word, head, is mansion in the first example. There is a predeterminer, magnificent is the pre-modifier, and opposite is the post-modifier. So although we are talking about mansion, we have added modifiers to make it specific. Some of the modifiers came before, some came after. Magnificent and then opposite. That means you're not going to refer to any mansion just like that. It should be the one that is magnificent and the one that is opposite to what we are talking about. Room, a dirty room upstairs. Send him to a dirty room upstairs, not any neat one downstairs. We are being specific. Okay, so room is being modified by upstairs and dirty. Upstairs is a post modifier, dirty is a pre modifier. Okay, now let's talk about pages. Can we look at the pages below? Can we look at the torn pages? Can we look at 4 torn pages below? Yeah. So if the pages are not 4, they are not torn and they are not below, it is not the pages we are talking about. Okay? Note that the head is the obligatory part of the noun phrase. Okay? We can therefore get noun phrases with varying structures. Men make good leaders. Head only. No modifiers. 4 houses collapsed. Determiner plus head. The determiner is 4. And the houses is the head. Dirty cities breed diseases. Pre-modifier plus head, dirty, and then cities. Okay? Men here are friendly. Here men have been modified by the adverb here and is a post modifier. Gentlemen here are friendly. Here men is what we are talking about. But we have pre-modified it with gentle and post-modified it with here. Okay, so gentle pre-modifier, men head word, here is post-modifier. All the great men here are friendly. All the great men here. All is a determiner. There is also a determiner. Great is a modifier which comes before men, so it's a pre-modifier. Men is a head word, and then here is a post modifier. From the examples above, we may conclude that the noun phrase can be a simple one shown in 4 above, or a complex one revealed in the example 9. Indeed, since there can be more than 2 items constituting the determiner, pre-modifier and post-modifier groups, the noun phrase can be extremely complex, can be made up of a lot of words. For example, all the 4 extremely athletically handsome Ghanaian medical students who have passed all their exams. That is a lot of things in there, in just one noun phrase. All the 4 extremely athletically handsome Ghanaian medical students who have passed all their exams have been given scholarships. So we can say they have been given scholarship. What it means is that all these words constitute just a noun phrase. In this noun phrase, the determiner group is made up of 3 items, all, the, and 4. The pre-modifier group also consists of adjectives, that is handsome, Ghanaian, and medical. themselves being modified by the adverbs extremely athletically. The head is students, and it is post-modified by the relative clause who have passed all their exams. Obviously, the noun need not be so complex to convey our message, but sometimes we need it to be complex to be specific. But if we need to write a complex noun phrase, there is a sequence each item must follow. So we have more than one determiner. What is the order? The order is a predeterminer or have both such, followed by a central determiner, the, mine, his, its, etc. And then followed by the post determinants 1, 2, 20, etc., which are ordinals or ordinals like first, second, third. This is the sequence that we saw in 10 above. Determinants generally determine the heads or their heads either by defining or quantifying them. And the determinants above do both. They define and then they quantify. Okay? When you have more than one pre-modifier, there's also an order. Where there are two or more pre-modifiers, they follow a certain sequence. It is here that difficulties sometimes do occur, but it's not difficult at all. Once you have time, quality time to review this ordering, it will not be difficult for you at all. The general sequence is that which is suggested by Leach and Svardvik. Okay. Yes. So we are talking about a situation where we have more than one pre-modifier, and we are saying that the general sequence that we need to follow is the one that has been suggested by Leach and Svardvik in their comprehensive grammar of the English language. They say that when you have such modifiers or pre-modifiers, the item that comes next before the head or sits closest to the head is a type of adjective which means consisting of or involving or relating to. Okay, so if you have an example, this is not a political problem. This is not a political problem. It is a social problem. Now you realize that in political problem, the word political sits closest to the head problem. So what does it mean? It means that the problem involves politics, okay? And doesn't involve a society or society, okay? So the next closest to the head is the noun modifier, political. Next, before the noun modifier comes the adjective derived from a proper noun. The American Spring Medical Conference, the Ghanaian Easter Medical School. Before this type of adjective, we find a variety of other modifiers like participles, color adjectives, adjectives denoting age, etc. So you can have printed Scandinavian designs, stolen Ghanaian paintings, okay, red oriental carpet, white African vulture. These pre-modifiers may of course themselves have modifiers. Badly copied Scandinavian furniture designs, really attractive deep red oriental silk. You need to know that normally noun phrases do not have all these types of pre-modifiers. Okay. Now we can also have more than one epithet. Sometimes the adjectives in the D group above give problems if we have to string two or more together. These adjectives are sometimes referred to as epithets. Examples include fat, attractive, black, tall, small, handsome, beautiful, etc. A tall, handsome black student, a fat, old, ugly woman, or a fat, old, ugly man, yeah. A young, beautiful white girl, or a very young, beautiful black girl. Yes. A string of two or more epithets may be presented restrictively or coordinatedly. A restrictive sequence is the order where each adjective restricts the other adjective to restrict the noun. In this sequence, the adjective referring to size, which is big, large, huge, precede the adjectives that refer to age. Okay? So we have beautiful, attractive, ugly, and the one that refers to color, as in 18 and 20 above. A huge, ugly building, a tall, beautiful mansion. Sometimes it can be coordinated, and the coordinated sequence is where the epithets are joined by coordinates, conjunction. Okay, and the order is not so important. A tall and ugly house, an ugly and a tall house. A clever and hard-working student. Okay, hard-working and a clever student. Now, can you write some two examples to illustrate A and B above? I'm sure you can do that. Try. Now let's look at post-modifiers or post-modifications. Post-modifiers are of varied structures, but they do not present usage problems like the pre-modifiers. Structures that function as post-modifiers are adjectives. Nobody important attended the conference. Oh, nobody important. Important is an adjective. It is post-modifying nobody. Something funny, ugly, odd, great took place or happened yesterday. So funny, ugly, odd, great are adjectives that post-modify something. They can also be adverbs. Okay, the room upstairs is haunted. The room upstairs. So upstairs is an adverb which is post-modifying room. The statement below or above is unacceptable. Below, above are adverbs. They are post-modifying statements. It can also be prepositions or prepositional phrases, and these are very common. Prepositional phrases are commonly used to post-modify nouns. For example, we talked to the girl in the red dress. They heckled the politician near the door. The politician who is near the door was heckled. The girl who is in the red dress was talked to or spoken to. Okay. Good. There can also be relative clauses post-modifying the noun. Do you know the man who has just entered? A man has just entered. We are post-modifying the man with the relative clause who has just entered. They burnt the paper that caused the offense. A paper caused offense. They burnt that paper. Okay. There can also be a positive clause. The claim that he has got the answers to our questions has not been proved. The fact that she is noisy does not attract me. Here, the appositive clauses are post-modifying the noun, general nouns that are stated. In 33, that he has got the answers to our questions is post-modifying the claim. In 34, that she is noisy is post-modifying the facts. Okay, sometimes it can be non-finite clauses, similar to some relative clauses. The player to watch is the center forward. The girl wearing the blue jacket is ill. Okay, sometimes they can be clauses of time, place, reason, and manner. Do you know the time when we should expect her? We met in Accra where her parents live. All the underlined constructions are post modifiers. I believe you have realized that. Do you know the reason why she is late? You can't endure the manner how she behaves. Write one sentence to illustrate each type of post modifiers as we have identified. Modification is a useful way of making our messages clearer. Okay, modifiers are useful tools to help us modify or clarify our structures. But it is a bad style to use too many modifiers in a single sentence. Shouldn't be using modifiers without recourse to some rules. Okay, so here you will do this self-assessment also. You will distinguish between determinants, pre-modifiers, and then post-modifiers. I believe you have been able to hold onto the distinction that we identified amongst these three terms: determinants, pre-modifiers, and post-modifiers. Then you should be able to comment on the use of modifiers in the structures below. So there is self-assessment for you. You can do them, try your hands on them, and then show them to your instructors for some corrections. Yes, so we'll end here. We'll end with session 4. We'll continue with sessions 5 and 6 when we meet again next week. I want to believe that you have acquired some new information, or you have been enlightened on the Concord usage, the conventions, and the writing skills that we need to develop in our academic journey. You have done so well in staying with me up to this time. Thank you so much. We'll meet again next week.